Well, you already know what it is. It's another episode of eThought Conversations where we talk to people who are educational, engaging, entertaining, who are making a difference in this world. And of course, I got a difference maker today. I've known him for, I don't know, I don't even want to say how many years, but a long time. We'll just say it like that. His name is Joe Smith. He is a musician, a film writer, a producer, director, motivational speaker. He's put out a couple of projects in the music world, also in the film world. A Good Man Two, Diamond Girls. If you haven't seen them, he's gonna tell you where to see them. They're all over the place. And today we're gonna talk about his transition from music to film and whatever else he wants to speak of. But he's out here killing the game, and he's my man today. I want y'all to welcome to our conversations, Joe Smith. What's happening, brother?
What's happening, fam? Fram, you good?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Like I said, I see you out here doing things, putting on your producer's hat and sitting behind camera. I know you as a musician first and foremost,
Yeah.
and you ascended to the musical director for one of the favorite voices in gospel music, Dorinda Clark Cole. So
Mhm.
how did that happen, and then transition me into the film world?
Yeah. So what happened was there was a community choir here called Chris Jones and Word of Praise.
Here, being Detroit. Okay.
So they had a spinoff group called The Word, which was Chris Jones and his brother. And I was music director for them, and then I was music director for Word of Praise. And so we had did two engagements that were about a year apart where Dorinda was there. And so this was like 2002. And so that year, Dorinda had just put out her first solo album. And so there was the second gig was a nightclub here called the Upper Room. You remember the Upper Room? So it was Chris Jones and Word of Praise and Dorinda Clark Cole were the headliners at the Upper Room. And I remember that Dorinda's didn't have a band. Like her music director, Asaph Ward, had produced her. He wasn't even her music director. He had produced her album. So she flew him in to do this gig. And so afterwards I walked up to her and I was like, you need a local music director. And I was like, you should let me be your music director. And at that time, she was trying to decide on hiring another guy. And so what happened, this is how God sets things up. So what happened was Bishop Jackson did a conference in Ohio, and they wanted to end the conference with a concert. And so the special guest artist at the concert was Dorinda Clark Cole. And so it was a perfect setup. So I told her, I was like, you don't have to bring nothing. You don't have to bring nobody. I'm gonna have background singers. I'm gonna have a choir. I'm gonna have a band. All you got to do is send me your set list and I got you. And she literally sent the set list and she came down and like, I made sure I was on everything. Like the band, we played everything just like the record. All of the arrangements were just like the record, and she was blown away. And so that night after the show, and I hate to call it a show, it was a gospel concert after the ministry event.
After the performance.
Right.
Right.
She was like, I'm gonna call you tomorrow. And that was in 2003. And I was her music director after that for 18 years after that.
18 years.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I ended up, and from that, so once everybody saw what I did with her show on the road, then Karen called. So then I was playing for Karen. Kiki was doing her first album. So then I was playing for Kiki. Then a few years later is when the Clark Sisters released the I think it was called One Last Time album. That was in '07. I MD'd for the Clark Sisters. So that was a whole blessed time. And then what's funny is in '05, I did it was a big show in Colorado. And so it was Dorinda, Byron Cage, Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin. It was a big show. And so Fred heard me MD for Dorinda, and I'll end up going out on the road with Fred. I did like a little small tour playing second keys with Fred. So I had some fun in those my gospel road years.
18 years. You was yeah, you was in there when, we was riding on vans and some planes. Yeah, we was flying. I guess we was flying by then, but yeah, you was in the trenches is what I'm trying to say. Hey,
Absolutely.
it's crazy. So, I mean, we all connected. Fred ASAP was just here as Fred's musical director. They did
Yeah.
something else, Halloween night. And man, those Clark sisters, they getting better. I
Hmm.
don't know how that's possible, but they got a new track coming out that I was like, I thought I heard it all. They
Yeah.
actually are getting better.
Yeah. That season with all of them was just an exposure to musical excellence that was just like, first of all, when I got all of those calls for all those different artists, I was nervous, man, because you're talking about artists who are known for having the best of the musicians. I
Yeah.
In the 80s when I was a teenager, this is who I listened to,
Right, right,
you
right.
know, was not only them, but the musicians that play for them. I followed them as well.
Mhm.
So fast forward, now I'm getting that call. It was pressure.
So how did you prepare? How did you know you were ready? And what do you say to musicians to get ready?
I just studied, man. I studied their music. I studied and not only studied their music, but studied how to be a MD. And made sure I understood what all that entailed, not only from a musical standpoint, but from a business standpoint. You know,
Mm.
so people don't recognize there's a business side to being a music director as well as a music producer. So you're handling contracting the band, you're handling negotiating their pay, you're handling, even interfacing with the record labels to get stems, from them for the live shows. And, a lot of times you end up doing shows that are sponsored by the record labels. So then now you're talking to record execs. And so you just have to have your business mind intact as well as your musical mind, knowing how to put a show together, knowing when to interpret what the artist wants to say. Do they want to keep it just like the record, or do they want to put a little razzle dazzle on the vamp, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So knowing what that artist wants, even knowing how to travel with the artist, the art. Hey guys, the artist's not your friend. We're not out hanging out, guys. This is business. Treat them like an artist, even if the artist is down to earth. Treat them like that's your boss, and yeah, laugh and joke and be cool, but also know when to give them their space. We're here to do a job. So all of that stuff, being on time, be on time for lobby call, guys. We're not waiting for you. That was one thing I messed around. The first big gig I did with Fred, I ended up backstage kicking it with all my musician friends because all my musician friends were playing for all the other artists that were on the show. My cell phone ring. They like, we in the car. What you doing? We on the bus. I was like, oh, here I come. I almost got left at the venue. So,
Right.
you learn those lessons, man. Be on time. Be where you're supposed to be. So I don't mean to ramble on about that, but yeah, that's a
No,
big
no.
thing.
But what you just did, you just gave a whole master class in musicianship and being an MD. And that's what I love, the detail, the attention to detail, because it's not
Yeah.
just I got all these chops and I'm the hottest thing out there. Yeah, but it's
Right.
the music business.
Yeah.
You can be a great musician and never learn the business. You can be a MD and suffer, and we've seen it time and time again. People who are
Hmm.
talented but don't learn the business.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story. I've never told this story before.
Okay, let's go.
This is how this is how I got the Fred gig. I don't even know if Fred remembers this. So what happened was when I first started traveling with Dorinda was a notorious time go overer. She would go over her time.
Mhm.
So this show was at in Colorado, like I said. So she had 20 minutes. And so when she was going over the set list with me, I said, Dorinda, I said, we don't have time to do all of those songs. And she was like, you just do what I tell you to do. That Maddie Moss Clark in her came out. You just do what I tell you to do. I said, okay. I said, okay, cool. So literally, I was right. 20 minutes for her, that's like 2 to 3 songs, tops. But her album had just came out. So she was trying to do all these songs off her album. So what happened was they let us go like 40 minutes, bro. She had 20 minutes. We were like 40 minutes in, bro. And so the stage manager came and tapped me on my shoulder while she's doing her set and was like, I'm on keys. They're like, yo, y'all have to stop now or we're going to cut the monitors off. And I was like, okay, cool. So when she looked over at me, I gave her like, we got to stop
That's it.
now. And so what happened was we ended up stopping the set right towards the end. She was mad, but it was fine. She understood. So what happened was, in order for Kirk to have all of his time, Fred had to cut his set because Dorinda went over. So the next day, I called Fred and I left him a voice message and I said, look, bro, I said, I apologize, man. I said, we didn't mean to go over, Dorinda just got caught up in ministry and she just lost track of time. So I apologize, bro. I said, that was not intentional. And, I was just a gentleman about it. And that's what made him call me for his gig. He
Wow.
had,
Wow.
he already knew I could play. He had already heard
Right.
me play at Great Faith.
Right.
But it was that professionalism and that gentlemanness that I showed him because we had violated the schedule of the show. And that professionalism is what made him give me a call. It wasn't
Okay.
my chops.
Right. It was like, I could trust you. You're dependable, because it's just
Yes,
like being on a team. It's like, you ain't got to be the best player, but if you know your role and help the team win, then we all win.
exactly.
You can go for the individual accolades, but are you gonna win a championship?
Yep, exactly.
Masterclass. I enjoyed that, man. Listen. So then, are you tired of being a musician? So then next thing we know, you behind the camera talking about film and stuff. It's like, but Joe, you a gifted musician. What you doing? What happened?
So what happened was I started doing stage plays.
Okay.
So I was music director for TJ Hemphill and Perilous Times for a number of years. And then I was co-music director. Terrence Hurd, rest in peace, Terrence Hurd was the music director for Perilous Times. And so I'm just always a person that's curious about everything around me. So even though I was in the band pit for the play, I was like, I wonder what I would be I wonder what it would take to do my own stage play. So now I want to know everything about everything. I want to know what's the stage manager do? What's the production manager do? Who does the lights? Who built the set? Where'd they get all these costumes from? And so I started producing my own. I did my first stage play in 2012. And then I started doing stage plays. So that introduced me to script writing. So even though writing a script for a play and writing a script for a movie is different, it tapped into a different side of my creativity. So then around 2018, 2019, all of the playwrights in Detroit started migrating to independent film. So first it was Amazon Prime. People were putting their movies on Amazon Prime and making money. Then they switched to Tubi. And so after the pandemic, I was like, man, I'm about to do it. So 2021, I shot my first movie. And my first movie was my first stage play. So I turned my first stage play into my first movie. So I Tyler Perry'd it.
It's a blueprint. You
Yeah,
follow the
for
blueprint.
sure.
So you said writing a stage play script versus writing a movie script is different. Tell me some of the differences.
So with a stage play, because you're kind of in a static location, you have to tell more. So it's more dialogue-y, it's more verbally driven. Whereas a movie, you can show more. You can go more places, you can show more locations. So you don't have to write it as dialogue heavy. And the way that you tell the story is you can just show more. So I had to learn how to make that transition from theater to film, and now I love film.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
So when you're doing film process, that process is a little more extensive, and you're a big advocate for the business side. Everybody wants to be in front of the camera, but you oftentimes advocate like there's a whole nother world behind the camera. Talk about
Hmm.
that for me.
So
Expound on.
I, yeah, so even in the music business, I've always felt like the longevity is behind the scenes.
Why?
There's managers that have been managers in the music business for 30 years, but there's artists come and go, unless you're talking about the top tier of artists come and go, but there's managers, label execs, attorneys, that have been in the game for decades. So it's the same way in the film business. I feel like the longevity is just in being a writer, producer, director, cinematographer, even actors here in the independent film. I always tell them you want a behind the scenes skill set as well, whether you're a production assistant or script supervisor, or just pick up a skill so that you can stay working, because um I only need so many actors in my movie, and then I'm not going to need those same actors in every movie, but
Wow,
I'm
that's good.
always need a, a cinematographer. I'm gonna always need a production assistant. I'm gonna always need a script supervisor. So to me, that's the key to longevity, is learning the business side.
So running your own media company, Joe Smith Media, what's been your biggest challenge and what's been your biggest reward?
The biggest challenge is sometimes finding competent help, because you can't do it by yourself. And especially when you live in an environment where everybody wants to be the man, everybody wants to be the boss. Sometimes collaboration can be hard. Um, and so there's that. And so how I overcame that was I just had to raise up my own talent. Like, I had to pull people in that were new to the game and teach them, you know. Um, so there's that. Then, of course, the typical business issues of, lack of access to capital. So it took me a while. I had to build up my credit. I took out a business loan. Was able to, purchase equipment and finance some projects, that way. So, those are the typical struggles. The biggest reward has been, number one, seeing things that are in my head come to life and be on the screen. That's crazy. It's crazy, but that's the biggest reward, is just, and then seeing how people react to it, seeing people love it, seeing people enjoy something that you created in your head somewhere by yourself. And the opportunity to give people opportunities, to give people that want to act opportunities to act, people that want to film opportunities to film, people that want to be a gaffer or grip or whatever, giving those opportunities and being able to pay them. Uh, that I love that. It makes me feel good to pay people,
Yeah,
especially pay people their worth.
that's wonderful. You talked about collaboration. What does a good collaboration look like? What are the elements involved in that?
A good collaboration is just knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and who you're collaborating with, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and having a relationship that complements one another. I just collaborated on my last movie, A Good Man 3, with Kamal Smith, who is the star of A Good Man, but he also has a production company. So we collaborated this time, and it was great because it was like, um, where his personality is one way, mine is another way. So we were good to play off of each other. Whereas he's very, like, on it, on it, on it, on it, on it. Sometimes I can be a little laid back. So we balance each other out, you know what I'm saying? So those are good collaborations, and when you have relationships where you can communicate openly and honestly, and there's a mutual respect there, that's the greatest.
Yeah. I was gonna say how you keep those egos in
Yeah.
check because everybody wants to be the head most times.
Yeah. I tend to spot that quickly, and I work very hard not to move out of my ego. So I tend to stay away from people who move in theirs. And then, like I said, when there's mutual respect, if you start seeing the ego pop up, you respect each other enough where you could pull each other's coattail, or you
Mhm.
respect each other enough to where you can ask, bro, am I tripping? Yeah, bro, you tripping a little bit.
Yeah.
So that, yeah. So that respect's got to be there.
Tell me about a film or a project, music or film that pushed you outside your comfort zone, and what did you learn?
I produced a film earlier this year called My Father's Blood. It's on Tubi now. It was my first film that was based on a true story, and it was based on an actual living person. That was very challenging. They had written a book about their life. There's a pastor here named Pastor Michael Robinson. He pastors in Ypsilanti, and he came from the streets. But the story is about how he ended up in the streets because his relationship with his father was strained. His father put him out of the house at 16. He went to live with his cousin. His cousin was a drug dealer. And so his cousin introduced him to the street life because he didn't have no money. And he ended up spending 20 years in and out of prison, getting shot, shooting people just in the street. And then he finally came back to the Lord. He wrote a book about his life. He wanted me to turn his book into a movie. So making a movie about somebody's life that's still living, and it's a period piece. So most of his life took place in the 80s and 90s, most of his street life. And we had a limited budget. So trying to transport us back to the 80s
Mhm.
with a small budget and the person whose movie is about is over your shoulder. That was a headache.
How do you balance the hat of being the CEO, media mogul, and still keep your artistic integrity? Like, it's like, okay, I gotta finish this in one day. How you do that?
Just I have great help around me, so um like, shout out to Chiquita. Chiquita is like my personal assistant. So like she's able to take his book and break it down into bullet points so I can make a script out of it. So it's little things like that that help me not go crazy,
Mhm.
but even in the production of the movie, finding cars from the 80s, finding houses that still look like the 80s that don't have flat screen TVs on the wall, you know,
Right.
finding grown people that look like the people in his life, and then finding their childhood version of them, all of those things. So it was having the right team around me is what helped me get that done and run the company and manage the budget and. So yeah,
Did you
gotta
go
have
over
the
budget?
right team.
Did you go over budget?
Yes,
It
yes, just
sounds
a
like it.
little. We
When you
went
say a
about
period
five
piece from the
thousand.
'80s,
Yeah, we only went about 5,000 over budget, so I feel good about that. That's not too bad.
that's not too bad. As okay, okay. What's a
Yeah.
normal percentage that people go over budgets, percentage-wise, you would say?
Um, I've seen people go over. I've seen people go drastically over budget. Maybe 10%, 20% is the worst. Maybe I've seen. But that just comes from not doing proper pre-production. One of your most important stages of film production is pre-production. You know, just all your pre-planning of locations, wardrobe, actors, and budgeting and just negotiating so that you know what you got to spend. That's really the most important part. Everything else you can figure out as you go along, but that pre-production is
That's
got to be
major.
on that. Yeah.
Okay. What's one story you haven't told yet, film or music, that you wanna tell that story?
That's a good question. Uh, okay. Here's a story. When I did my first movie, I did not. When I started filming, I didn't have all the money to finish. So I literally stepped out on faith. I had one investor that had invested a certain amount of money, but it was a fraction of what we needed to finish. And I just started the process. I just stepped out on faith. Then, as we were rehearsing, one of my actors invested some more money. I didn't even know he had money like that. I just mentioned that I was looking for investors, and he was like, "Well, how much you need?" I was like, "Oh, okay." So he was my second investor. We started filming, and then I had in the middle of filming, I met with another investor that gave me some more money. So we're inching closer towards what I need to pay for the film. And then I had a corporate client hired my company to produce some marketing videos after we were done filming, but they paid me while we were filming. So that's how I was able to pay for the film. So it was like literally like I was walking on the edge.
Walking by faith.
Yeah. It's like literally it was like Friday. I was like, we wrap Tuesday. I don't know how I'm gonna pay everybody their balance on Tuesday. And literally by Tuesday I had all the money.
Is there
Yeah.
a story that you wanna tell? I mean, for, some like a film you wanna do that's deep in your heart, like, "I gotta do the Richard Pryor story," or something like that. What's that one?
There's a lot of documentaries I want to do. I want to do a Coleman Young documentary.
Nice.
I want to do a documentary on Black success. That's a story I want to tell. I want to show Black people that have made it in spite of racism, systemic oppression, all the things. There's Black people, there's Black billionaires, Black multimillionaires, Black entrepreneurs, Black, I want to tell their stories. So that's something I'm working on for next year for my streaming platform, Mainstream.
Talk about mainstream. You just launched that. What is it?
So Mainstream is my own Tubi. It's a streaming platform of TV, film, podcasts, live events, all on one platform. You can find it on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung TVs, iOS and Android phone app, and through our website, mainstream.tv. So we just launched 30 days ago. It's going well. It's free. It's going to start showing ads next year. And I'm excited about that because now we can do what we want.
So people just need
Yeah.
to download that app on
Yep.
their smart device.
Yep. And it's Mainstream with two E's, MAINSTREEM instead of
Okay.
EAM. Yep.
So where do you see everything 5 to 10 years from now? It's like, Joe, man, I remember when Joe was what's your expectation?
I want to grow this platform, man, to be just as big as a Tubi, just as big as a Netflix, even though these guys are the juggernauts. But I see we can build this thing to being just as big. And so, eventually we want to show sports, we want to show live events, live concerts, and things of that nature. We're going to have educational modules on there. So you can go on there and learn different things, just kind of like how the Masterclass app is. We're going to have different things like that. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to be doing it from here in Detroit. I wanted to move to LA. I tried to move to LA for 20 something years. And every time I got ready to move to LA, it was just something wasn't right. Something didn't line up or something fell apart. And so finally I was like, okay, God, you want me to sit still. So I'm going to sit still. And so now I'm glad I didn't move to LA because building Mainstream, it allows me to think freely instead of thinking inside the box of Hollywood. If I was in LA, if I went to LA when I wanted to, I would have the industry mindset. But being here, not being plugged into the industry that in that way, I can think freely and create freely. So I'm not making the mistakes that they made. So
Not as
yeah.
much pressure, and you shine brighter in cold than you do with all the diamonds out there. So
Yeah.
it, it
Absolutely.
and Detroit is just booming right now, and it's a
Yeah.
good time, and it's a good place to be. So we glad you stayed
Yes,
because
sir. Thank you, brother.
we need all that inspiration and everything. Man, we are so out of time. This has been absolutely phenomenal. I do this thing before you go, and then I'm gonna have you do some inspirational. Give me something inspirational at the end. But I do this thing called eThought Conversations, and I do this thing called First Thoughts. So I give you two
Okay.
choices, and you give me your first thought. Okay? Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs? Okay. Um, mornings or evenings?
Evenings.
Um, the new church or the traditional church?
New church.
New church? Okay, all right. Um, gifts or gift cards?
Gift cards.
Gift cards. Road trips or flights?
Flights.
Flights, okay.
Yeah.
Wine is a commission. Everybody
Okay.
always get on that one.
I gotta go commission.
Why? That's the
Think
only one I'm gonna
commission
ask
had
why.
I think commission I love the wine is. I think commission had a bigger impact on me because as a teenager in the 80s, I was just into the synths and the whole new wave sound that they brought at the time. It was more intriguing to me. I think that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Film or music?
Uh, right now, film.
Right now, film?
Right now, film.
Okay, alright, cool. Talk or text?
Text.
Text.
Hmm.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Team iPhone. Do you film with iPhones? They advertise that, or are you more high tech?
Nah, I'm more high tech. But you can like the cameras and the apps that you can get where you can literally turn your phone into a cinema camera is crazy. So I will film some stuff with my iPhone.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
And then last one, winter, spring, summer, or fall?
Summer.
Summer. Why?
Yeah. I loved water. I love being on the water, by the water, chilling on the water, cruises. I love the warm weather and the water.
You there for sure. Where can people
Yeah.
find you? Where can they contact you? All that information. Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Millionaire Joe, spelled all one word, and same thing on Facebook, Joe Millionaire Joe Smith, and you can also follow Mainstream at Mainstream Media on Instagram and Facebook.
And you can download the app on, repeat that one more time, where you can download the mainstream app.
Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung TVs, iOS and Android phone apps, and mainstream.tv is the website.
All those places you can find Millionaire Joe, my guest, my difference maker today. Before you go, leave us with some inspiration, somebody that's inspiring to do what you do, or anything you want to leave us with. Give us something inspirational on eThought Conversations.
Something that Bishop Wayne T. Jackson, shout out to my pastor, Bishop Wayne, Apostle Wayne T. Jackson, Pastor Beverly Jackson, something he said decades ago that stuck with me. He said, God is no respecter of persons. In other words, what he was saying is that if you see somebody doing it, that means it could be done. You're no different than them. They're no better than you. Whatever you see being done means it's doable. So don't play yourself cheap and think that God is not able to do great things through you the same way he's done great things through people you see that we know of today. So believe in yourself and believe in what God can do through you. And I won't say don't be afraid because fear is going to come. But courage is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to move forward despite the fear. So move forward.
I love it. That's Joe Smith, Joe Smith Millionaire. You can find him all on those social media platforms. Thank you again, my brother, for joining us here on eThought Conversation. It has been a pleasure, and I'm sure this is going to help somebody, inspire somebody, bless somebody. And before we go, my eThought today is the way you see your life shapes your life, and the way you define your life determines your destiny. Like, share, comment, and thank you again, my brother, for joining me on eThought Conversations.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for having me.